nights I feel my heartbeat racing slow in candlelight. Words unspoken, feelings hidden, shadows dance until the morning light. When you say you need me, I'm holding on tight. All these doubts inside me fading out of sight. In this moment, nothing else feels right. You're probably right, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. What's up, y'all? It is IMCM, and you are listening to You Probably Right podcast. Thank you for joining again, hanging out with me. Remember, you can always tell your friends about the podcast. It won't hurt. It might help. Lately, again, I don't know what happened, guys. I had an amazing spike. And then all of a sudden, it's like ghost town. I don't know what's really going on with this podcast, honestly, nor the carrier. But I'm not going to cast aspersions on the carrier because, for all I know, it could end up spiting me, or they might spite me in the end. So let's just leave it like that. Okay. So anyways, this podcast episode is number 200, not just number, it's episode 286. Yes, there's actually 286 episodes once I finish this one. And the title, for lack of a better name, for when you know it's time to go, but you don't want to leave. All right. Pretty simple, clear cut. Remember, this episode, like all my other episodes, are for entertainment purposes only. If there's actually educational and useful information inside of any of these podcasts, it's coincidental. Maybe not merely, but yeah. Anyhow, thanks for hanging out. Here we go. Let me just cue this up here. Yes, and it's an actual person, by the way, guys. I know usually these types of podcast episodes tend to be done by AI these days. So you will hear me humming and hawing over my script here and making mistakes, which, you know, now that I've listened to AI a few times, it's actually quite, I actually listen for mistakes, because some of the AI is getting that good now that you're actually sitting there listening for a mistake to say, oh, it's actually a real person. So yes, this is an actual real person. Notice my voice going up and down, and it doesn't sound all monotone, and everything doesn't sound like this. No. All right, here we go. There comes a point in every connection where your heart starts whispering truths your mind doesn't want to hear. A point where the signs you've been avoiding quietly stack up until they become impossible to ignore. You start seeing the patterns for what it is, or what they are, not what you hoped it would become. You start feeling the weight of loving someone who shows you glimpses of what it could be, but never anything you can hold. And even though you still care, even though some part of you would give anything, anything for things to change, you feel something shifting inside of you. A slow acceptance settling into your bones. It's not anger. It's not bitterness, just truth. And the truth has a way of sitting heavy in your chest before it ever makes it, out of your mouth. Leaving someone you love isn't the part that breaks you. The part that breaks you is knowing you loved with everything you had, and somehow that still wasn't enough to bring the relationship to life. The part that breaks you is realizing that no matter how patient, no matter how consistent, loyal, soft, or understanding you were, or giving, they never met you in that same place at the same time. Not because you weren't worthy, but because they weren't capable and they weren't ready. And from the looks of things, it didn't look like they ever were going to be ready for you. And even though you sensed the truth long before you were willing to admit it, you kept showing up. draining your lifeblood, wasting your lifetime, showing up. You kept giving chances. You kept convincing yourself that something as fragile as potential could someday become something solid because your heart believed in it, because your spirit wanted it, because the connection felt too familiar, too rare, too deep. You might have never felt like this ever. I never knew what love like this. I never knew a love like this before. You ever heard that song before? Too rare, too deep to walk away from without a fight. And oh boy, did you fight. You fought your feelings, you fought their feelings. You fought your quirks, you fought their quirks. You fought their shortcomings, you fought your shortcomings. But loving someone who can't love you fully comes with a cost. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that, listen to me, I'm not talking about a marriage union. Because as far as I'm concerned, and from what I've experienced and probably given up too early, I would say honestly, if you get married, stay married, figure it out. You've made that commitment. If they're not hitting you, if they're not constantly cheating on you, then I say honestly, work it out. Now, not like old school. There was many back in the olden day that just decided that they're married, they're staying together, and that's it. Now, maybe they would stay married for the kids, supposedly, and 30 years would go by and they didn't say more than a sentence to each other. Not like that. I'm saying stay together, fix it, humble yourselves. Hopefully you can find a common ground, hopefully through the word of God. If you don't have any common ground, at least you can have a book that says, do it this way, do it that way, and neither of your ways come into play. And I think once you have that guidebook, that road book, or that road map, that life's instruction, I think you can work it out, honestly. Now back to this. This is more, I would say, geared towards somebody who's in a long-term relationship and it hasn't gone the way they wanted it to go. There's no kids involved and there's no marriage involved, and you're just in a relationship. Okay? Okay, so a subtle, invisible cost that grows heavier over time. You start compromising pieces of yourself just to keep the connection alive. You start shrinking yourself, in other words. You start rationalizing their distance as stress or timing or fear. You start carrying the emotional weight for two people, and somewhere along the way, without even noticing it, you begin to disappear inside your own story. You stop asking for what you need. You silence your intuition. You shrink. You soften. You hold back and hope that your patience will eventually be rewarded. But the truth is, no amount of waiting can make someone ready to hold what they keep dropping. And deep down, a part of you has always known that. Still, letting go doesn't feel triumphant. It feels like standing at the edge of a place you once called home and finally admitting to yourself it was never yours. It feels like grieving a future that only ever existed in your heart and your mind. It feels like walking away from a version of love that almost happened, almost love, but never actually did. And even when you know leaving is the right thing, even when you've reached the end of what you can give, there's a quiet ache that lingers. An ache that comes from caring about someone who could never fully care back. an ache that comes from finally seeing the truth you spent so long protecting yourself from. So this episode is for that moment. The moment where clarity finally outweighs hope. The moment where your soul starts whispering, it's time, even while your heart says, not yet. The moment where you know the only way to honor yourself is to walk away. Even though every memory, every laugh, every soft moment tries to pull you back in. This is about the courage it takes to leave when you still love them, but you finally accept that they never loved you the way you needed them to love you. Check it out. The breaking point you try to ignore. There's a moment in every relationship, whether romantic, friendship, or family, where something shifts. It's quiet at first. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet. You feel it before you understand it. The energy changes. The conversations get shorter. The silence feels longer. The smiles stop reaching their eyes. Your laugh stops sounding like you. And somewhere inside your body whispers, something's off. But you don't want to believe it. So you start doing what most of us do when we feel love slipping through our fingers. You double down. That's right. You try harder. You give more. You show more patience, more kindness, more effort. You ignore bad behavior. You ignore just the worst behavior because you're going to make this work come or high water, right? You tell yourself, it's just a phase. It's just a rough patch, a sticky wicket. Or worse, it must be something I'm doing wrong. The truth? You feel the crack before you ever see it. Your intuition always speaks first. Your hope tries to negotiate with reality all the time. Because leaving someone you love isn't about walking away from them. It's about walking away from the version of yourself you became with them. And sometimes that version feels like home, even when the house is burning down. You still want to stay. This is where the suffering starts. In the gap between what you know and what you wish could still be true. After that, the false comfort of emotional glue. Yeah, that's right. You're stuck on them. They're stuck on you. Hey, I'm on my way. There's something I call emotional glue. It's the stuff that keeps you stuck to a situation long after the situation stops feeding you. Emotional glue isn't love. It's definitely familiarity. It's history. It's routine. It's the fear of starting over mixed with the fear of losing what once felt like safety. Sometimes the glue is guilt. Sometimes the glue is kids. Sometimes it's nostalgia. Sometimes it's the fantasy of what you believe this relationship could be or could have been if only the timing, the effort, the circumstances were just different. Maybe she's too old. Maybe he's too old. Maybe you're both too old. Maybe you're too young. Maybe it's before you've finished your education. Maybe it's before you found a real job. Maybe it's before you could buy a house. Who knows? And let's be real. Emotional glue is very, very, very powerful. It convinces you that staying is noble. It's like that glue where the guy puts the hard head on and sticks himself on a beam or something, and somehow crazy glue just holds his body together. It's so strong. Is it safe? Not really. Is it right? Not really. Is it going to last? Probably not. It convinces you, though, that staying is noble, that loyalty is proof of love, and time, oh boy, time. You don't want to waste that time. That patience will eventually win. That's what it shows you. But here is the painful truth. Sometimes patience isn't strength. Sometimes it's avoidance. Sometimes it's denial, dressed up like devotion. You're not staying because it's healthy. You're not staying because it's familiar. And familiar isn't the same as good. And familiar is just familiar. The hardest part is admitting that the relationship you're fighting for only exists in your memory or in your imagination, not in the present moment, not in the person standing in front of you now. That's the part that breaks you. And that's why this episode matters. Next, the body knows before the mind admits it. A lot of people think heartbreak starts in the mind. It doesn't. Heartbreak begins in the body. Your breathing changes, your sleeping becomes thin, your appetite shifts, your nervous system starts picking on little things and picking up on patterns your logic refuses to acknowledge. When someone is slipping away, your body feels the vacuum long before your heart accepts it. Your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, even their silence sounds different. You try to rationalize it. You tell yourself they're stressed, tired, busy, overwhelmed. But deep down, there's a voice you keep trying to silence. The voice saying, this isn't what it used to be. Your mind bargains, your heart holds on, your body tells the truth. It knows when a connection is dying. It knows when a person is present physically but absent emotionally. It knows when you're the only one carrying the weight. And when your body starts screaming the truth, you either listen or you break. After that, well, why you stay even when you know you should go? If you've ever stayed too long, let me tell you something you need to hear. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. We don't stay because you're foolish or because we're foolish. We stay because we're hopeful. We stay because we see potential. We stay because the memories are louder than the warning signs. We stay because we remember the good moments and tell ourselves, if we had that once, guess what? We can have it again. But here's the truth, people. The truth that people rarely admit. Sometimes the version of someone you fell in love with was temporary. Sometimes it was fugazi. It wasn't real. It was a facade. It was a caricature even. Sometimes you fell in love with their potential, not the reality. Sometimes you fell in love with who they were with you for a season, not who they are at their core. And you keep waiting for that old version of them to walk back in the room. But that version is gone. And you're sacrificing your peace, waiting to see them again. You stay because leaving feels like losing and uncomfortable and foreign because maybe you've been with them that long. But leaving is sometimes the only way to stop the slow erosion of your self-worth. And after that, well, when love becomes labor, there's a point in the relationship where love stops feeling like a connection and starts feeling like work. Not the healthy kind of work, not the effort that builds intimacy and deepens trust and emotion. No. The draining kind, the exhausting kind, the kind that will leave you bitterful, or just bitter. The kind that feels like emotional employment. You start managing their moods, you start performing stability, you start walking on eggshells, hoping not to trigger another argument, another withdrawal, another shutdown. You start editing your truth. You start doing everything you can possibly think of. That's not love. That's labor. And labor without reciprocation turns into resentment, bitterness. Resentment turns into emotional burnout, and emotional burnout feels like loneliness inside of a relationship. When love becomes labor, your heart loses oxygen, and you start asking the question you never wanted to ask. Why am I the only one fighting for this? That's the moment where something inside quietly decides maybe it's time to go. But the heart doesn't move as quickly as the mind. So you stay, and so you suffer. Now, the moment you finally tell yourself the truth. Well, eventually you hit a point where pretending costs more than leaving. That's the real turning point. The moment people talk about when they say, I was done, not angry, just done. This moment doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with a big fight. It doesn't come with some dramatic final straw. Usually it comes with clarity and a big exhale at some point. And you've been waiting. A quiet clarity that says, I cannot shrink myself anymore. I cannot wait for them to choose me correctly, wholeheartedly. I cannot negotiate for the bare minimum, those breadcrumbs. I cannot abandon myself to keep them comfortable. As a matter of fact, they're not happy either, and they're not comfortable. But you've been trying harder than ever before. And that clarity, it doesn't shout, it whispers. But the whisper feels louder than all of the excuses you've used to stay. When the truth becomes louder than your hope, that's when you finally know. You're not leaving because you stopped loving them. You're leaving because you finally started loving you. After that, the fear of life after letting go. Leaving a relationship, even a dead one, feels like grief, like somebody died. Because it is. You're grieving the future you imagined, the version of them you loved, the version of yourself you lost, the routines, the inside jokes, the familiarity, the late night conversations, the comfort of simply knowing someone was there who knows you, even if they weren't really there at all. People don't fear being alone. People fear starting over. People fear the emptiness of the first night without the person they built their world around. People fear the silence that follows the goodbye. The wonder, where are they? Who are they with? Is that the reason why we couldn't make it? But here's the truth. Silence is scary because it's honest. It forces you to feel the feelings you've been avoiding. It forces you to face the reality that love we're holding on to was already gone anyway. And yet, the silence is where healing begins. The strength is finally walking away, or in walking away. Walking away isn't weakness. It's power. It's self-respect. It's courage. It's the moment you stop trying to resuscitate something that's been dead for months or years. Leaving is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your rebirth. When you walk away, you're not losing love. You're losing fear. You're losing stagnation. You're losing the parts of yourself you sacrifice to stay afloat. You're choosing growth over comfort, truth over fantasy, self-worth over emotional scraps. And that choice, well, that's one of the hardest choices a human being can make. But they look so beautiful, so handsome. They're physically fit. They're very smart. People compliment me on such a good choice. But it's also one of the most liberating, because once you leave that place you outgrow, you finally create space for the love that was meant just for you. All right, check it out. Because this is a shorter version of my episodes that I usually do. Check it out. The part your heart needs to hear before you let go. Listen. Before you walk away from this episode, I want to speak directly to the version of you that's tired, conflicted, hopeful, hurting, and still holding on to that last little thread. I want to speak to that part of you that knows exactly what needs to be done, but still hesitates. Because leaving someone you love, especially someone you've tried for, waited for, prayed for, fought for, never feels clean, never feels quite right. It never feels neat. It never feels like victory. It feels like stepping out of a house you built with your own hands, even though the foundation was cracked before you ever moved in. I want you to hear this clearly. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. Walking away means you finally stopped failing yourself. It means you stopped shrinking to fit a space where you never were meant to occupy in the first place. You're a square peg and that's a round hole. It means you stopped loving someone at the expense of abandoning yourself. It means you decided to put your mask on the plane before your partner. It means you stopped trying to earn love from a person who couldn't receive it, couldn't return it, or couldn't even recognize it. Not because your love was flawed or because you're flawed, even though we're all flawed technically, but because their capacity was just so limited. The pain you feel right now, that's not heartbreak. That's the weight of the truth finally landing. And the truth is very heavy when you've been carrying it and carrying hope too at the same time for so long. You're grieving more than a person. You're grieving effort. You're grieving time. You're grieving the potential your heart clung to. You're grieving the version of them that you created from a glimpse, from something that happened at a time ago, from promises, from soft moments that kept you holding on. You're grieving a future that felt so close you could almost touch it. That's why it feels like loss, because you didn't just lose them, you lost the story you wrote with them in your head. But here's the part your heart needs to know. You didn't lose yourself. You're finding yourself again. Slowly, softly, quietly. In the little moments where your spirit starts stretching again. In the morning where you don't wake up wondering whether you matter. In the nights where your peace weighs more than your loneliness. In the pauses where you stop waiting for messages that never came. In the seconds, where you choose yourself instead of choosing confusion. Leaving someone who couldn't love you well doesn't empty you, it restores you. It gives you back your voice, your softness, your freedom, your clarity, your self-respect, your emotional oxygen. The love you gave wasn't wasted, it just wasn't received. Your effort wasn't pointless, it just wasn't matched. Your consistency wasn't too much, it was simply foreign to them. Your heart wasn't wrong, it was just ahead of theirs. And if nobody else has said this to you, let me be the first. You are not unlovable because someone didn't love you. You are not too much because someone preferred the bare minimum. You are not forgettable because someone acted indifferent. You are not hard to care for. They were simply unequipped. Your love is not a liability. Your presence, it's not a burden. Your honesty is not a weakness. Your desire for connection is not a flaw. The right person, the person who is emotionally available, secure, ready, and capable, will not pull away when you show up strong. They will move closer. They will match your energy. They will meet you where you've been waiting. They won't be intimidated by your heart. They won't disappear when things get real. They won't leave you guessing. They won't need to be convinced. And that's a big one. They will recognize the rare quality of love you carry, and they will treat it with respect, and it is always deserved. So breathe. Place your hands on your chest for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. That's proof. No, just joking. That's proof that there is something inside of you still worth fighting for, even if the relationship isn't. You're not walking away from love. You're walking away from what was blocking it. And when you finally let go of what wasn't choosing you, you make space for what will. You're not losing anything. You're transitioning. You're graduating. You're healing. You're remembering who you are without the weight of someone else and their uncertainty. So when you know it's time to go, but you don't want to leave, remember this. Leaving doesn't mean you stopped loving them. It means you finally started loving you. All right, y'all. This is MCM. You're listening to You Probably Right podcast, episode 286. Take care and until next time. Peace out. and keep loving yourself. Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.